Please welcome Allan Leighton. Just to give us a context, what do you do at the moment? What are your roles at the moment?
I'm chairman of Pace, I'm chairman of Pandora, I'm chairman of Office, I'm chairman of Matalan, I'm chairman of E1, and chairman of Charlie Bigham's.
How do you make that work?
Well, largely I'm chairman, so that's a big difference. Somebody always says to me, if you're the chairman, what is the most important thing that you do? And I always say the same thing: get a great CEO. And at the moment, I'm blessed that I have very, very good CEOs running the company. And the thing is, everybody thinks that everything about chairing companies and being on boards has become governance, and they forget that governance is not box ticking. Governance is understanding the business and actually the business doing well. That's what real governance is. And therefore, it's all business driven. And so, my rule of thumb is if you get a good CEO, a great CEO, he gets a great team, she gets a great team, the business does really well, and let me tell you, they're very easy to govern. And, never forget that in the end, it's how the business does and how it's run that creates good governance, not a load of rules that people then have to tick boxes that says it does or it doesn't. Governance comes from within a business, not from without a business.
And that makes perfect sense. You say that you need to find a good CEO. What does a good CEO look like? And does that good CEO, is that through your eyes, the business's eyes? Do you need to have a chemistry with them? What stands for a good CEO for you?
Well, I think it is, I get through my eyes, but I'm sort of my eyes in those appointments. My eyes are the business's eyes. I am the eyes of the business in that appointment. And everybody wants to be a CEO. It's the best job in the world. If you're the CEO of a company, it's the best job in the world. But it's also it's the best job in the world.
Come on, it's the toughest job in the world.
Yeah, but it's also the hardest job in the world, and it's also the loneliest job in the world. So if you want to be prepared to do it, then you've got to remember it's really, really tough, and it's really, really lonely, and all this, unfortunately, I can't subscribe. It's 24/7. This idea that you can go away for 2 weeks on holiday and everything's fine is not the case. You live and breathe the business every minute that you're the CEO of it. And as soon as you don't, then you've got a problem. And so you need people who have got the resilience to do that. Resilience is a really big part of doing that. The Mars brothers would always say to me, well, I'm going to tell you this now, never forget it. And I say, what is it? And then they tell me, and then 3 months later they come and say, well, I'm going to tell you this, never forget it. And then we're going to and one of the things they told me never to forget, which I never have forgot actually, they said, you have to remember, and they said to me, Alan, in business there's only two things important: people, products. Forget about everything else. People is two fronts. First of all, the people who you work with, and this work with is a really important thing. The sort of the Mars culture and a bit the Asda culture was and is, you don't work for anybody. You have different roles and you have different levels of responsibility. Nobody works for anybody. We all work together. We work with people, and that type of workplace where everybody thinks they're working with each other as opposed to I work for him, I work for them, she works for me, then that's really important. So, the people you work with...
that makes instant sense, but it sounds really rare to me.
Well, I think it is really rare.
Why?
Well, because people don't think that way. It is that people, that part of the problem is, career becomes very important, and therefore it's really all about how do you get up the ladder. And therefore, part of your measure of your success is the number of stripes you got. How many, it kills me, which is why I hate the word staff, by the way. Staff for me is, what the hell's that? That it's sort of demeaning in a strange way. And it is, and part of your success is how many stripes you've got, and your stripes are driven by how many people have you got working for you, not working with you. And again, I think great CEOs, great chairmen, they create a culture in the business and a context in the business that you don't need to do that. You're paid more and you get more responsibility because you're really good, not for how many people report to you. And actually remember that actually generally you're only as good as the people you have working with you, and they are a major proponent in your success. And so you have to, you've got to have that sort of equality in it.
So I disturbed you. You were describing to us CEO. What do you look for?
Very good CEOs are generally very good with people. I think, secondly, they set people and products, and then they understand that the big piece of the product piece is the people piece, which is about customers. So it's all about people. Because, another thing the Mars brothers, going to tell you this, never forget it, was remember, businesses don't die, people kill them. That's how it is in business. That's why people are really important. And the people who kill them are the people who run them and the customers who go away from them. So you can't get away. So great CEOs, good CEOs, they understand that people thing, that's the fundamental thing, and everything else spins off the back of that.
So where do you find these great people CEOs?
Well, largely I found a lot of them in Mars. I sort of took a load of sort of two generations out of Mars with me in different places, and because you've got you have to have been brought up in the right way, and brought up in organisations who think like that, because it's not all that do. So that's one place. And secondly, generally in a lot of the companies, there's always, I was saying there's always somebody in there. There's always one or two people in there, and you just got to find them, and and shape them a little bit, and push them through. And often people always think, well, that's a bit risky. It's the least risky. The most important thing is get the right person. It doesn't matter how long they've been there, what colour they are, if they're male or female, or what experience they've got. Experience is the most important thing. I used to say to people, I know people who are my age, who are very experienced but have no experiences. And then I know people who are much younger, 25, 26, who've got great experiences, who are very capable of running things. And I think that's the other thing, take the age out of it. The Mars culture is very young. It's all about how good you are, not how many years you've been in it, how many people report to you, all of that stuff.
So let me take you right back then to the beginning. Because there aren't many people with a career in marketing who've got even into the C-suite, let alone chief executive, let alone chairman. Where did it all start?
Well, because I was fortunate actually, because I was in marketing and sales, and I think that's quite a good combo, because one is really a lot of the thinking of how do you do something, how do you build a brand, how do you go to market, and of course the other one is you have to go and do it. And there's always two sides. There's the brand piece, and then there's the customer piece. And I think if you've got sort of knowledge of both, I think it's pretty good. So and I think that the when I did sales as well, then you had to I was made a sales manager really quick and run regions and things like that, where you'd have 100.
Why so quick?
This honestly, I have no idea. I mean, I was sort of wandering around, and then somebody. Obviously thought they might have something. Is it true? I got a phone call, and this was before mobile phones. I get a phone which is, can you phone this guy called Don Reed, who was the sales director at the time. Generally you phone him, you're in trouble. Oh God! So I get the phone, and Don said to me, look, we got this thing from America. And I said, yeah, what's it called? This is called management development. So, yeah. I said, we're ready. He said, it's a really good thing. It's called management development. Only if we're going to put a few people in the company in it, and we decided you're going to go on it. So very good. Thank you very much. And they said, what does it mean? And they said, what it means is you're in Slough on Monday, and you're going to be working in manufacturing. So I went to Slough and ran the Maltesers line. I mean, I haven't got a clue what I'm doing. And it was this sort of investment, I think, that people...
So moving you around the organisation?
Yeah, I did not, they said, we're going to try and get you to do every job in the company in the next 2 years. And so I did. And that's a really big thing to do, because, frankly, I was useless at 90% of them. And then I kept saying to them, I'm just not very good at this. And they said, that's not the point, idiot. Well, the point
Agreeing
is
with
you'll
you,
understand, you'll understand all this stuff. So,
what did you take from that, and how did that equip you? If in retrospect, it's always hindsight.
it was all about the people thing. Got me big time, and we were all taught that's the most important thing. Is how you do it, and this is how you manage people, and this is how you recruit people, and this is how you develop people. And I think about it now. It was much more. I told the story yesterday. I did a thing last night, and which was, another one of the brothers, come here, we're going to tell you something here, don't ever forget it. And they said to me, look, you have to understand one thing. 50% of the brains in the world are female, and brains have no colour. Just remember that. And your job is to get us more brains than anybody else. And nobody else has worked this out yet, so we'll get more brains, and because we've got more brains, we'll be better. It's true. And so, you know, now when I read all this stuff, you know, where everybody's trying to, as if we have to have here's the reason we're doing diversity, here's the reason why we have to have a split between male and female. Step back, it's like obvious. You know, they always say to me, it's, you know, Alan, don't worry about head count, worry about brain count. Don't count the heads, count the brains. And go in the meetings, look at the people, count the brains. It's a bit scary from time to time, but it's a different way of thinking about things, but it's so obvious, you know. And then you think, well, actually, if you want to be successful and you want your business to be successful, that's what you got to do. And it all goes back to the people. It's people, and then it's all the diversity of people, and it's the male and female, and actually, it's just common sense.
How long did you stay at Mars?
18 years.
When did you realise it was time to move?
I never thought I'd leave, actually, because I loved it so much, and you know, I was getting on really well. And I did try and leave about 3 years before. I was headhunted by Graham Met, actually. And I didn't know what a bloody headhunter was, you know, because we just lived in our own world and did our own thing. And somebody phoned me up one day and said, look, we'd like to talk to you about another job. And I thought it must have been in the HR department in Mars. And they said, well, whereabouts are you in the office? I said, we're not. We're a different organisation. And I felt terrible because I thought, oh, God, this is like treachery. So I went to see Graham Met and they offered me a job. And my thing in all these things is when you change job, and you're in a great company and you love it and you're doing quite well, it's always a 51-49. It is not an easy call. And actually, I think when it is an easy call, it may not be the right thing. You know, so I think you've got to have this. Anyway, so I went and I thought, well, I'll have to tell the brothers because I was working for them at the time. And so I got me and I said, look, I just need to let you know I'm going to resign. I've got another job somewhere else. I said, really? I said, yeah. They said, okay, well, you better have a think about it. And they went out and they locked the door. And they left me in the room for 8 hours. They left me in the room for 8 hours. And then they came back 8 hours later, about 6:30. And they opened the door. And they said, so have you made your mind up? And I said, yeah. And they said, so you're going to stay, aren't you? I said, yeah. And they said, well, now tell us why you're going to stay. I said, because you locked me in this room because you didn't want me to go.
That's simple.
You know, it's you know, and that's another, you know, sometimes loyalty works both ways.